We're very pleased to be able to present this to the community. We're going to start with Bill O'Connell, and then we will lead into Stephen Campiglio.
Thank you, Margaret. Nice to be back here in Southbridge. And like many folks have been saying, Margaret's work in bringing the arts into the library and keeping them alive has been just a wonderful thing. And we also have present tonight Southbridge's current poet laureate, Bill Tremblay, in the audience. Bill was one of my teachers and mentor and longtime friend. I wanted to start with an old poem. I'm mostly going to read new work, but this is a poem from my brother Tom, who's a multimedia artist, and years ago when I wrote this poem, he was blowing a lot of glass, so blowing glass. The glass blower fingers his trumpet, nimble hands, curling neck, arched back, sucking in a firestorm, crushing his lungs, heart, blood, pumping as he blows and blows like miles, like Sunday dawn jam-cutting solos, blow, blossoming out of blow, neck craning muscles listening in the heat, flaming, woman bulging from her dress, scorched, man bulging also, blowing out like dizzy, cheeks so sweat-hog foul, his shirt reeks, and the glass breast swells, is blown, a penis, an eye, a fist clenching, supple lips is the climax. Sweet breath and melting glass thrust down into the flames again before it cools. And this is from the Noh Place Anthology book, and next to it is an old calendar with David Micah and a whole bunch of people we used to know, Jim Barclay, Cara Jean Consenza, playing at the Noh Place Arts Co-op way back in the day. This is a poem for another Tom, my friend Tom Boudreau, who's a fisherman, and right now is up at Lake Willoughby, hopefully fishing, if he's not watching on Facebook. The lure. I was thinking about this. You know, when I grew up, I would have called it the lure. You need a lure and a hook to fish, right? L-U-R-E. The lure. Tom said this lure was like a jewel, silvery gold, hammered thin by a man dead some years now, that swims like an injured minnow the trout can't resist, taking it full on and leaping into the first rays over Mount Pisgah, suspended there in the fisherman's gaze, the barb cutting the throat from the inside. Rainbow blood speckles on the boat floor, the lure extracted, withered but intact, the fish thrown back, scarred, to shoal again with its mates, whose own scars tell tales of caught and released, gasping back into the drink, the lure padded and smoothed, its filament feathers preening in sunlight, stinking of fish. Early September. White phlox peaks and droops into the hot green. Wood bees hover in the open garage door, drill up into the crossbeam like a thought from elsewhere. First day of school. Soon the kids in this cul-de-sac will awake. My 3-year-old granddaughter calls from upstairs. There's a lion in my room. We search where it was, but it's gone. Later, we will dig for worms in the garden and bring them back on a tin plate. Before dark, we will dump them back into the tomato plants and water them. That's a poem for June. My son's daughter who's now 4 and coming for the weekend. I should mention I'm in the middle of grandchildren heaven. My daughter had her second, a boy, 2 weeks ago, Audie William, and my son's wife is due at the end of October for her second, a little girl, so it's rather exciting from my vantage point. And material for poems. I learn a lot. I've learned so much, and it's such a privilege to be close to someone that young growing up again and going through the whole learning language and everything, you know, that sense. Hands. Purity is for the young and beautiful. For the rest of us, scars are important, a mark of the will against all odds. Today I ripped my hand open on an old post, removing a board pounded in 200 years ago with square nails catching my skin as I pulled by. Later in the shower, I shoved that wound up into the nozzle, scalding it clean. Maybe tonight I'll play the piano for no one, letting the hands do what they know, running over the keys in the almost dark, the purity of music answering my mistakes, the piano's reluctant forgiveness. And here's another piano poem. Blue and Green, which of course is the title of that wonderful tune claimed by Miles Davis and Bill Evans, though you usually just see Miles's name on it. Blue and Green. I'm trying to master it in my 60s, playing just the right notes, practice diligently for no one but the cat and what floats out the door to a chance listener. It gets better, then worse again. Solos tangled in themselves, spoiled chords. Then one day I'll play it just right, and my heart settles behind the beat. And I can hear Bill Evans with LaFaro and Moten live at Birdland. And I am there and here in the notes. No one can say which notes those are. So here's another grandchild poem for Maya, who moved from Santa Fe to Brooklyn this summer and turned 2 a month ago. Amaya in Brooklyn. This child, new to the big city, creates a world on a tabletop. A toy cow, a green-haired troll, a barn made of empty glasses and a folded dish towel for a roof. I am the omniscient narrator in this story, adjusting the edges so things don't fall, suggesting rain, a thunderstorm. She smiles at me because this is a good place. We can feed the cow pieces of houseplant. Outside, a flash of heat lightning and then a muffled boom between buildings. The cow and the troll shelter in the barn. Rain washes the streets down into the bay. A visit to Laura and Tom. Love in the pond is thick and slimy this time of year. The herons haven't devoured dozens of frogs. Long whispers at dusk. In my heart, mud settles to receive all that falls into it. The emerald ring Tom gave you on the way from your last chemo, you lost it swimming in a kettle pond. A gift of love. It matched the necklace you wore when you wed, that you wear today. Showing us the ring found by Mike the oysterman's metal detector in 1.5 inches of silt, shining now on your finger. your hand you extend for us to admire. What the body needs. Wind and music and water flowing nearby. The dew absorbed by morning. A flower coaxed into the open, softer than phallic skin. To look down into blossom like an incoming bee. The sky whole in blue. To stand on the moving planet as the next wave and the next muscles towards shore. This poem's from my wife, Robin. It's called Love Poem Overdue. I want to tell you so many things, but I don't. I love you so deep and so long, I have to come up for breath. We are never alone, this love scarred and chipped like an old ceramic cup. Come drink. Let us remember who we are without words. Let our bodies speak. Well, this is about family. This is called 147 First Street, which was the house we all lived in. I had 9 brothers and sisters, and we sort of spilled out of that place in Melrose. 147 First Street. Close to my mind, I'm a kid on the curb watching bigger boys play one-on-one in Jimmy's driveway, banging up against the single basket screwed to the garage. On the curb, I'm between things. The house behind me full of sibs. Summer evenings getting shorter, and I haven't quite figured out girls yet. Thinking perhaps about the last thing that happened, or what the old man said I had to do before I left. But Jimmy's got the ball, and Cliffy's poking him, and in a minute, that ball's gonna slam down on Cliffy's back, and the game will dissolve. Jimmy's mother will flip on the spotlight on her way through the house to make a fresh drink. By then, I'll be gone, up to the attic bedroom where the little ones aren't allowed. I'll be there straight through college, my brothers and sisters' voices growing deeper and louder in the street below. And we lost our great friend, Andre Juarez, also this summer, after an intense, quick battle with cancer. And then we had, as many of you in the audience know, we had a reading for him to read his poetry from his new book at the West Brookfield Library earlier this year, and this poem was what I wrote the next morning. After your reading for Andre Juarez, or AJ, as he is also known. 6 a.m. when my mind comes to the page, I have nothing to tell you about dying. Your graying face and sad eyes as you read your poems last night. And when your eyes failed and your voice dropped to a whisper, Jonathan spoke them for you in a clear voice rich with possibility, announcing your words to the world, palpable, vigorous, sung. We miss you. We can't believe you're gone. That's not in the poem, but oh, another love poem. This poem, years ago, when actually we were out in Colorado, I was studying with Bill in Fort Collins, and my sister was up at Missoula for a junior year abroad, almost, and we went up to visit. And this is about that time. jukebox dream song. The set list in my mind punches in 06 and lifts another 45 from the rack with a quick mechanical arm, and Hank Williams, goddammit, comes out of that box like yesterday. We've come so far down memory lane, our changeling shoes reflect the times. Your silver sneakers and my chicken shit-caked boots. Ain't we a pair dancing in the moonlight of my mind? Remember that late night in Missoula? Still light out after 11? Walking to my sister's from a cowboy bar in brown twilight? Still figuring things out, whether we'd be together this long, or just a year or two, then move on? We couldn't see the Bitterroot peaks, but they were there. The weight of them pushing us together. The passion that burned so hot then. I was saying this. I entered this poem in a contest, and I'm a finalist, and it's through the Winchendon Library up in Middlemass. So I'm going to read there with other winners. And so it's interesting, all these small Middlemass libraries I've been reading in West Brookfield, and sort of making my way. I like that term, Middlemass. It's like Middle Earth. Hobbits. There's a few here tonight. This is another poem to June, who's now 4. But being the first grandchild, it's like the first kid. There's photos of 1,000 photos, and then the second kid is sort of like less, and after that, it's, a photo here and there. Lots of poems for June. To a granddaughter. And again, this is me trying to learn from them. That's really, I think, where I'm after there. To a granddaughter, almost 2. Light unlocks life, frees it from carbon and rock, works its way into the smallest cracks, and grows a tree from rubble. So you too, conceived in the body's liquid dark, pushing out unique, demanding your place here. My light wanes, shaded circles and bruises where new was. Layers of memories I begin to forget, except the oldest ones I was born with. I bend my head to receive a kiss, your tiny arms wrapping around my neck and hanging on. Now, just to put frosting on the cake, I'm going to end with a poem I just wrote for the new guy, Adi William Kumar Kara. I hold you, child, 1 week old, limbs still swimming, mouth sucking on my shoulder, rooting. You a boy with my name between names connecting continents, tribes dispersed from Babel, scraped from islands and forests onto boats and jets, searching, finding, rooting. You are all of us it took to get here, deep inside Brooklyn. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you on Facebook. I do have books at the table here if you'd like to purchase one. If people online would like to get one, then Facebook message me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Sakonnet Point is $15 because it's older, before inflation. And this one's, when we're all still alive, $17. Why don't I introduce Stephen? Stephen and I go back to when we were nearly children. He was a freshman at Worcester State with my wife, and I was wandering around. And we all got together because Stephen started this Tuesday night poetry group as a revolution against the authorities. And we would get together on Tuesdays and read poems to each other, and one person would sing a song. And it was the first time I ever read my poems to anyone. I wasn't that young either. So it was an amazing experience, and ever since then, Stephen's sort of been involved in every arts thing that comes around, and he's someone who makes things happen. He made Noh Place happen. He's put together musical and poetry performances here and at his college and in other places, and he's just a poet through and through. So here's Stephen Campiglio.
Thank you, and thank you, Margaret, for having us. You know, the funny thing about this, not funny, this date, being here tonight, this reading was supposed to, as Margaret knows, originally have been May 23rd. And that's the day Andre died. We had scheduled this in February. We had the May 23rd date, and then all of a sudden I had a panic. I realized it was my college's commencement, and I'm contracted as an administrator to go to the commencement, and I love going to them anyway. But so in a frantic, I emailed Margaret and Bill saying, "Put the brakes on the date. I have to be at work." And so we got rescheduled to tonight, September 12th, and I just thought that was very strange that the original day is the day that Andre died. And in fact, I got the text right before putting on my gown, getting ready to march out with the staff. And it was, it really was just a weird set of circumstances. And I would like to begin with something dedicated to Andre. You know, if Worcester State College, the now university, if that was chapter 1 of what would be Noh Place, Castle Street, right, was chapter 2 of what became Noh Place. And this is dedicated, yes. I say what would have been, because right, it was still nascent. This is called Main South Troop for Andre and all the Noh Place folks, dedicated to Castle Street. And one other thing about Castle Street, Andre was one of the first to live there. That was the other point I wanted to make. After Worcester State, we all kind of, it was a diaspora. We all kind of went our own ways for a couple years, as Andre did. And when he moved back to Worcester, he was he moved to Castle Street. And it was like a clarion call, you know, come. It's cheap rent. It's a great little street, you know, it was a dead end, so it was very private. It's close to downtown. And one by one, we resettled when we all came back from our travels. We all wound up on Castle Street, the 8, 9, 10 of us. And again, that was definitely like the chapter 2 of what became Noh Place. So this is dedicated to that whole scene called Main South Troop, Main South being the area of Worcester where Castle Street is. The sidewalk of Castle Street is strewn with the trash of Main Street. The suit from City Hall doesn't know where to park. He has all of our names in his briefcase. We all are transient souls. An eroded fence post protrudes from a green bush. A gray wood tip of it could be a bird. A bird lands there and the fence tip flies away. The local ornithologist has no record of these gray wooden birds. Scientists, however, have documented arcane instances in which aged wood became animate. Meanwhile, the suit from City Hall has a mandate to sort out our interchangeable apartment numbers. The wind, fauna-like, reverses itself, and the trash of Castle Street shifts toward the corner of Main Street. I've lived in SurVision now for last 20 years or so, and I got two SurVision poems centered in that area. One that I'll read, Camp Robinson Crusoe, which was an actual former camp located on the old SurVision Village grounds. Camp Robinson Crusoe. Near the crater of an empty foundation, overgrown with brush and vine, an old basketball court's been replaced by a stand of young pine. The aged blackboard, like a strange treetop, up on twin metal posts whose rust blends in with the colors of the surrounding trunks. Amid this bygone summer camp, I blend in too, and so aligned, resurrect the past with a penetrating ear that reaches far enough to hear splashing water, children playing, and a bouncing ball, then disappearing into silence, all. The next poem is Pogus Village is sort of an antiquated name for a highland behind old SurVision Village, and I've hiked these trails for 20 years. I know the back hills very well, and Pogus Village. The ascent near old SurVision Village was once called Pogus Mountain, home of bears, wolves, and wildcats. The coining of the slang word nifty derived from magnificent, perhaps. The prominent ridge of the Pogus Highland, crisscrossed by old stone walls, to take the name of the trail and place it at the head of the poem. On the other side of the trail, Lead Mine Mountain and the Tantaosque site, a former Nipmuc graphic mine that was used to make ceremonial paints. Before colonial appropriation and the Dixon Ticonderoga pencil I write with this morning. A nifty poem that incorporates the gist of something grand in a few short lines depends not only on sparse, suggestive diction, but the spaces in between, how the reader extends the tempered magnificence at hand. Now you mentioned Missoula, Bill, because you know I was in there. I was at U of M for a while. So this poem is centered in Missoula, called Anonymous Freight. And I used to love to listen to the trains go through town, and which is a very childish thing. You know, boys loving their trains. And Anonymous Freight. Visualizing the location of my room in this city where the river and the bridge establish cardinal points, I feel the grid of a map take shape and overlay my vision. Lying on the floor, I plot the freight train's slow advance through downtown according to the names of the streets it passes. The crossing bell rings, harmonizing all the bells in my life. And this too projects a point on my corresponding cityscape. Before the train accelerates, heads east toward the plains, resounds west to these walls, and fades into something inscrutable, which joins the lines in my palms, the blood and the hands I plant on the floor to get back to my feet. My father was born in Philadelphia in the Italian section. And this is called Old Philadelphia. I do go back to Philly every now and then. And of course, the demographics keep changing, and slowly some of the old neighborhoods change. But that's to be expected. Old Philadelphia. With the urge to conjure and experience what my father was like as a young man, I returned to his immigrant neighborhood in a dream. Walking along a seemingly endless Italian street, I reach an oddly situated English pub and order a drink, when a very drunk, very non-Italian man asks me for my name. After I respond, he begins to ridicule the string of vowels in my surname. We fight and spill into the street. He draws a knife, which is actually a letter opener. I knock it free and kick it into the storm drain. His will goes slack, and he disappears. Then the bartender brings me an envelope that fell from my pocket during the fight, something I don't recall carrying, labeled Family History. It's folded and sealed in intricate ways. I need that opener back. And that was right from a dream, which I do get a lot of material from dreams. And it's not that that's the ultimate reality, but it's a great source for poems. And the poet then gets his or her hands on it. And, part dream, part awakenedness. But the results can be very interesting. And I do absolutely listen to my dreams. They have things to tell us, and so does our open eyes and that part of our life as well. So we need to merge the two. The next poem, when I was getting back to refer back to Castle Street, so there was Castle Hill was the park at the end of the street, and the original name for Castle Hill was Goat Hill. It's actually, I refer to it in a poem called Row House in the anthology that Bill mentioned, the Noh Place Poetry Anthology. I have a poem that incorporates some of the history of Castle Street in that poem, and I refer to Goat Hill. This is a completely different poem called Goat Hill Park. Alone in the playground late at night, I'm a grown man on a swing, swaying to a halt in the dark, while an intense swell of light within enables my sight to penetrate the tree trunk before me. I see through the bark and into the vein that draws nourishment from the earth, and the leaves begin to tremble. We circulate sap or blood, grow branches or limbs, tree head, head of hair, blown about. The next poem is dedicated to someone in the audience, Michelle. We used to, again, Castle Street, we had one summer where we wrote napkin poems, a show that we did perform at the Worcester Art Gallery back in the 90s, where Michelle and I would go to restaurants and we would pass napkins back and forth and write poems. It was usually a dialogue. We'd take turns writing on the top of the napkin, pass it over, and then the other one would read it, open up the napkin, and write the response. But over a summer of, many restaurants and a couple of months of writing, we had a big stack of napkins. And Michelle, of course, being incredibly gifted with collage and scissors, and which you'll get in the end of this poem. Again, it's dedicated to Michelle Merle, my dining mate, and to the city of Worcester, really. On the blank TV screen, the white door's reflection. Sunlight leans against the exercise bike as if to say I've come 93 million miles before taking this rest. What have you done? I admit my interest is vagabond, my goals those of a vagrant soul. Outside in the heat, white bulb-shaped blossoms the size of baby heads and polygonal like miniature geodesic domes emit a foul smell. Their brief visual and nasal stimuli contrasting the bland and mild weed. Roaming downtown, I notice life stirring from the three-dimensional lettering on the bank's textured facade. Inside its capital B are upper and lower birds' nests, as though bunk beds or the berths on a train, a two-family home or one extended one. Indeed, a word functioning on multi-levels. Later in the day, my fellow diner sets a pair of scissors beside his fork and knife and cuts up the Chinese zodiac on his paper placemat, assembling a collage that reconstructs the heavenly design into an outrageous version of the universe, and which bewilders the waiter when he comes to bring us extra napkins for our colloquy of extemporaneous verse. I like to use the form or device, a literary device called cento, right? Using lines of other poets in your own poem. And it's also a nice way to draw attention. It's like a free PR stunt too, because I'm always trying to draw attention to the poets who have influenced me. They work their way into many poems via this device of cento, and then it's my way of, a nod to my influences. And in this case, with this poem, the influence being William Butler Yeats, my patron poet, because we do have the same birthday, separated by almost a century, but and the line borrowed from Yeats is the beginning line, and I'll just explain it briefly, but it comes from Yeats, an early prose text called Per Amica Silentia Lunae. When Yeats was in his very he remained mystical, but he was very occult-oriented, more so in his earlier days. And this text is very occult-oriented. It's Latin for through the friendly silence of the moon. And the line I take from Yeats's text is, a hand not ours in the events of life, which is, poem is called Inkling. A hand not ours in the events of life manifests at will, parts the seam of my dream, and pours words of a fluid nature into a vessel-like page beside me. But before the lines become legible, they meld into the vessel itself with a translucent volume, a perplexing object withholding its lexical audible message, or presenting a visual one, nevertheless incomprehensible, which has entered my sphere and sensed in nearly the same moment it disappears. Now, from Missoula to, from Castle Street to Missoula to San Francisco, where I was initiated. I've been rereading Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces. So you depart, then you're initiated, but you have to return. So even that gets back to with Andre's clarion call to come back to Worcester. That was our return. We all left and were initiated in our various ways, and then we returned to the city. And that's really when things started to happen. I mean, they were always happening, but maybe they happened to a higher degree. So San Francisco, where I lived for about a year, this is North Beach, very hip section of the city, great blues bar called The Saloon, and this is called Blues at the Saloon. In the alley behind the bar, a guitar riff trembles through a trash can cover. Above, Tibetan prayer flags hang from a rotary clothesline. Chinatown, Russian Hill, the financial district, Fisherman's Wharf, and Telegraph Hill, neighborhoods contiguous to where I am on Grant Ave in North Beach. With its flavor of Little Italy, this area of the city as though the partial fingerprint of the thumb of the peninsula. Our lifelines across the open palm. At closing time, I head to the park and sit on the grass beneath the towering tree. Turn a phrase and the mind turns. The dance that continues with me sinks into enzymes, rises into diaphanous form beyond me. I finished with two more. So speaking of dream, and when we talk about loved ones we've missed, and I'm still waiting for the real Andre dream to hit me, or the first one. I think about him often, but we were close for about 45 years. That's a chunk of time of many events and much laughter and sadness, but dreams, is a way that our dead loved ones come back and say hello. And I miss my mother terribly. She's been gone for over 10 years, but she came to me. She was in a dream, and I just need to define one little term called sotto voce. Is Italian for a whisper or a murmur. It's called ornament. Those ornamental Dutch clogs that my grandparents displayed on the landing of their stairs, and which have long since disappeared, reappeared in my dream hands last night to the sound of my mother's sotto voce. Oh my God. And through her voice, the rest of her body manifests. Standing close together, we caress the pair's elegant wood finish and admire the painted design of exotic birds. Then check the soles for the product's trademark to verify its authenticity. We share the gifted moment for as long as we can before the stairs themselves begin to stir and climb or fall into obscurity and take us too, until the only thing authentic is the dream itself. I'd like to finish with a translation. So by way of bio, to add to Bill's lovely introduction, I've been translating an Italian poet, 1855 to 1912, Giovanni Pascoli, with a co-translator who works at King's College in London, Elena Borelli. She's the fluent language expert, and we do it all through email. And it's been almost 6 years of work, and we're translating an entire volume called Canti di Castelvecchio, Songs of Castelvecchio. Castelvecchio is where Pascoli lived. He had a house there. It's in North of Lucca, if anyone in the Tuscany area of Italy. And so I hope to eventually get over there and partake in some of the celebrations, because Pascoli is kind of like their Robert Frost. He's very famous in Italy, not so well known here. And we're on the home stretch of translating this entire book, which has been quite a lot of work. So I'd like to finish with one of the translations that we did called Il Gelsomino Notturno, which is The Night Jasmine, by Giovanni Pascoli, translated by myself and Elena Borelli. In the hour nocturnal flowers bloom, I think of my dear ones. Crepuscular moths appear among the viburnum shrubs. Bird chatter ceased some time ago. Now just the whispers of a lone house. Nestlings sleep under the cover of wings, like eyes beneath their lids. The heady scent of red berries flows from the open flowers. Downstairs a lamp glows. Grass grows on the graves. Droning, a late bee finds all the cells taken. Up high through the blue yard, the hen leads her chirping stars. The fragrance the wind carries fills the night. The lamp brought upstairs shines in the bedroom and goes out. At dawn, the petals close, slightly wrinkled. Something broods inside that soft, private urn, a new, unspeakable bliss. Just a quick reference on the hen. I should have explained it first. It's a farmer's colloquialism of the Pleiades, the 7 stars of the Pleiades constellation, being the hen and her 6 chicks. And Pascoli was very, very hip on farmers' folklore and very natively oriented with terminology, etc. So that was the line, the hen leading her chirping stars, referring to the Pleiades. So I think I am good. I want to, again, thank Margaret, who has been such a patroness of the arts here, and Jacob Edwards Library, and you're kind of like this beacon of light here. Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you both for reading this evening, and thank you for tuning in this evening.